Hello and welcome to your very first training video to be a BYU-Idaho Math tutor. In this video I will describe what you can expect from your training and what is expected of you. Of course, when we hired you, we knew that you would be a good tutor. You're already great at math and you've chosen proficiency in teaching. This training will help you be an excellent tutor. There are three main training areas. First, just some of the resources that are there for you and the policies that the Math Study Center has, educational principles, and the math content itself. Let's look at each of these expectations individually. A lot of the training on resources and policies will happen in the first couple weeks of the semester. You will read and learn about some policies that we have for the math lab and some tips for tutoring there. And you'll jump right into tutoring in the math lab. You'll also be trained on how to do online tutoring using the online chat that we have. Every tutor is expected to be able to work on the chat, even if you aren't signed up for a specific shift that is an online shift. You'll watch some videos and do some reading about that as well. And third, when you complete all of your training about mid-semester, you will be able to do one-on-one tutoring. So during the next few weeks, you'll do some training on how to do those appointments as well. All right, principles of education. As a college student yourself, you have had lots of experiences with education. In your training with us, though, you will delve deeper into 13 specific principles all about learning and teaching. Many education majors, myself included, have been blessed by these principles. I learned more about teaching as a tutor than any other education class that I've had. So no matter what your major, though, these principles will help you to bless the students you serve as a tutor and can help in your own education as well. To learn about these principles, you'll read about 1 to 2 pages each week, watch a video or two, and then you will write responses to questions about those principles and send them in. Here are the 3 areas of math content that you will be trained on. First, developmental math. This is required of all tutors. That is Math 100A, which is arithmetic, Math 100B, which is algebra, and Math 101, which is intermediate algebra. These classes have unique methods of teaching, and so it's really important for you to know how to help those students. It is also required that every tutor is able to tutor Math for the Real World or Math 108X. If you've taken that class and you got an A in it, you don't have to do that training. But if you haven't, then it is required for everybody to be able to tutor that. And so you'll learn more about that content. Now, if you are tutoring Math 110X, maybe you took Math 109 but you didn't take Math 110, maybe you're a calculus tutor, you didn't take college algebra at BYU-Idaho, you need to do the training for Math 110. If you are a stats tutor, then you don't have to worry about it because you're not going to be tutoring Math 110. But if you're doing both, you'll have to go through this training. College algebra is another unique course to BYU-Idaho, just like Math for the Real World. And so you'll need to see some of the unique things happening there at BYU-Idaho in that training. Now you may be thinking, I am a math tutor, I kind of know all this stuff. Not to brag, but obviously we know you know your math content, or else you wouldn't be here watching this video. I just wanted to take a minute and talk about the reasons that we have you do this training. First, everybody needs a review. I've never had a tutor who got 100% on all of the assignments. And so just sometimes there's always something that maybe you need to review or think a little bit deeper about. Second, speaking of which, dig a little deeper. Maybe it's been a long time since this was new content for you. Maybe it's second nature now, and you need to think, well, how does it feel for these students who are struggling to make sense of this? So to review also that feeling of maybe digging a little deeper, trying to understand something that's new. Third reason is application. You are probably aware that mathematical principles apply to multiple types of math. You can do long division in arithmetic, but also in algebra. So even if you end up only tutoring, say, calculus students, you may be able to help them because of your understanding of basic algebra. And that might be something that they're weak in. The biggest reason is, like I said already, there are unique methods here at BYU-Idaho. The faculty have unique ways to help students learn that are based off of research and years of experience. These methods help students to both understand and remember mathematical principles. That may not be the way you learned it. We want you to see the content in a different light, and that will help these students to understand the subject, but also to understand what the professor is doing and how they are helping them. Speaking of that, let me illustrate with the triangle here. The triangle of learning. There's three main parties. You have the subject itself, the student, and the professor, right? The student has some kind of a relationship with both the professor and the subject. Maybe they don't like the teacher, maybe they don't like the subject, maybe both. But you come in as a strong math influence. You are at the center of all this. Notice it's not your job to be one of the vertices of this triangle. You're not going to replace the student and do the work for them. You're not going to replace the subject and be like, well, I don't think you should learn that. Let's learn something else. And you're not going to replace the professor by being the teacher and teaching them, quote unquote, a better way to do math. Your job is, like I said, not to replace, but to support each of these parts of the triangle. In all your interactions with the students, you support the teacher, and you support the subject, and you support the student. You don't speak negatively or replace any of those parts of the triangle. Your job is to essentially support these until you work yourself out of a job, meaning that the student will no longer need you because they have a better relationship with the subject and or the professor, and they have more confidence in themselves. So your job is to support that. So those are the three main areas of training. It may seem like a lot as you start, but don't get overwhelmed. We hired you because we knew you could do it. Let's talk about the most important thing of all, though. How do you get that money? How do you get paid? You get paid to complete your training. You should be getting paid right now. Right? So if you're watching this video, make sure you clock this later. If you haven't already, clock it in Workday because this is part of your training. All of your training is paid work. So you need to put it in Workday, clock in, clock out when you do training. And if you don't know how you do Workday, you will read about it in part of this orientation. So don't worry, you will get the money. Okay, so make sure you're clocking all of your training work on Workday. Of course, however, we don't want you to just say you're completing the training and clock that time and not actually complete it. So this is how we keep you accountable for your training. There are things called training shifts. You will sign up for the same time every week, the first few weeks of the semester while you're completing your training. That you will sign up for these shifts that happen in the Math Hub. You will sit in a specific training area, we'll show you, and you'll work on your training assignments, watch the videos, do the assignments, write responses, and send those in, things like that. At the beginning of each training shift, you will sign your name, that you attended your shift, and then you will clock in, and you will clock out, and you will sign out when you leave. Eventually, your training shifts can become your availability for one-on-one appointments. So this helps you to get those 10 hours every week before you're able to do one-on-one appointments. Also, as you complete assignments, you will turn them in to me, Sister Ashcraft, or the current Tutor Development Specialist, TDS. Some will be on paper, others will turn in via email, and each assignment will tell you what to do. You'll also honestly report that you have watched specific videos or read training material using a Google form. The Google form will ask you to click on your name and which assignment you have completed. Do not forget to report the completed training on the Google form. If it's not filled out, we assume that you have not completed that part of your training and that you weren't doing anything when you were doing that training shift. So make sure you're turning things in and reporting on the Google form in that survey. Of course, in your training, I want you to remember this message that came from Jesus Christ to Oliver Cowdery in Doctrine and Covenants. It applies to you as well. Oliver Cowdery was, of course, a teacher, and you are a tutor, and this is going to apply to you. Behold, thou hast a gift, and blessed art thou because of thy gift. Remember, it is sacred and cometh from above. And if thou wilt inquire, thou shalt know mysteries, which are great and marvelous. Therefore thou shalt exercise thy gift, that thou mayest find out mysteries, that thou mayest bring many to the knowledge of the truth, yea, convince them of the error of their ways. Doesn't that sound like teaching and tutoring? You are going to bless lives as you bring students to knowledge and truth. You can do this. Let's get training. Woohoo!